Hey everybody, I'm Trent. Welcome back to another one of my videos. In my video yesterday, I talked about how I delegated myself out of my Amazon business in a relatively short period of time and how it continued to grow rapidly without my day-to-day involvement. So how did I do that? I did it by creating standard operating procedures. And at the tail end of video yesterday, I promised that I would explain to you the best practices for creating standard operating procedures. So why do you want to do this? First of all, well, it's absolutely critical that you have documented business processes for every aspect of your business, because if you don't, hiring, training, management, staying on top of it all becomes substantially more difficult. Plus, you're making it virtually impossible for you to ever be able to do what I did, which was to delegate yourself out of the business. And if you ever desire to sell your business one day, being able to show a potential buyer that that business runs and grows without your day-to-day involvement will make your business worth substantially more than it otherwise would be. So having set the stage, let's dive into the best ways to do it. There are basically two ways you can create standard operating procedures. Way number one, which is not my preference, but is better than nothing, is to simply create a video of the thing that you're doing. So you're going to do this thing, you're going to fire up your screen sharing software, you're going to record your process as you're going through it, and then you're going to upload that to YouTube or Wistia or wherever you would like to store it. So the pros of this particular approach are that it is relatively quick to create that initial content. However, and it's a big however, the cons is that over time, as you develop more and more standard operating procedures, you're creating a massive albatross for yourself. So why do I say that? Well, in this business and in every business, things change all the time. So as you have more and more and more videos, you have more and more and more videos to edit every single time something changes. As you might imagine, that is a lot more work than maybe simply changing an image in an SOP that is text and image based. Changing the image might only take you a few seconds or maybe a minute, whereas reshooting and re-editing the video might take you 10 or 15 minutes, and it can become an absolutely massive drain on your time. Now, the other big issue is that if you're going with video, let's say your virtual assistant has pretty much got the process memorized, but there's something in the middle somewhere that they can't quite remember. Well, they've got to watch the whole dang video to get that one little piece of information that they need. Whereas if you're creating your SOPs in text and image based, then they can go right to that appropriate section, as I'll explain in a minute, and find just what they need. So as you might conclude by now, I am not a fan of creating SOPs that are video based, although it is better than nothing. So what do I like to do, and how do we create our standard operating procedures? Well, I'm sure by now you conclude that they are all written, so they're text and image based. And that makes creating them more work, to be sure, because there is screenshots that you need to take, there's words that you need to write, and that takes time on the front end. And in some cases, it can take a lot of time, depending upon how many SOPs you have to create, how much detail you're going to go into in the SOPs. And if you're going to be able to have your virtual assistants use these SOPs without peppering you with questions every single day, you're going to need to go into a lot of detail. So a little bit of a disadvantage on the front end. However, on an ongoing basis, having your SOPs text and image based is substantially better than video for the reasons that I explained. You don't have any videos to update. Your VAs can go to the exact section that they need and get the exact information that they need, and it works a whole lot better. Now, if you're going to put them in text and images, where should you put it? Should you put it in Google Docs or should you put it in some type of software? Well, you could put it in either place, and like I said before, there are pros and cons. So Google Doc, the pros, of course, is you don't have to pay anything to use Google Docs. They're free. The cons is that it's a static document, and as you get an ever-increasing number of these documents, and then you have multiple VAs, and they're referencing all these documents, you have a new challenge, and that challenge is managing the team and the execution of all the work they're doing on an ongoing basis. Whereas if you have your SOPs in a project management tool like my software company called Flowster, that problem goes away. And it goes away because now for each SOP that you have, every time you assign that SOP, maybe it's a product extraction, to one of your virtual assistants, we call that a workflow. So it's an instance of the SOP. Well, you can give that workflow a due date. You can assign it to you. You can assign it to your VA. You can have messaging chat going back and forth. And so you and your VA are going to receive email alerts when someone leaves a comment for you, or when the due date is approaching, or when the due date is passed. So in my day-to-day operation, because obviously I use my own software, I live and die by using my own software, I simply look in my inbox and I get these alerts telling me this is due, that's due, this is overdue, somebody left a comment. So no matter how much activity I have going on, I'm able to stay on top of it all. So by now you might be thinking, well, that sounds great, Trent, but I don't want to go out and create all those SOPs from scratch. I don't have time. And as you might conclude at this point, we do make copies of our standard operating procedures available for sale. The product is called the Wholesale E-commerce Business System, or WEBS for short. You can get to it by going to brightIdeas.co/webs, and you can go ahead and just basically purchase a copy of the SOPs that we use in our business. And by doing so, of course, you will take away all of that burden that I talked about of having to spend months, or in our case, years, creating and refining and improving these SOPs. So I encourage you to go ahead and check that out. And thank you very much for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.